Hello, welcome to the skills based interview and job progression coaching section of this training. First, let's deal with skills based interviewing. When looking at the traditional interview process, most traditional interview questions really tend to focus on college degrees, certifications, or past experiences. Many of the individuals that we are working with in our programs may not have a stellar background or a robust resume that prepares them for some of these employment opportunities. It is imperative, therefore, that as we coach these individuals, that we really empower them to take a skills-based approach to their interviewing, to their job progression, to their resume building and job search, which will allow them to have success built not on traditional college degrees or even certifications, but built more on the skills that they actually possess. So, in this module, we're going to provide you with some best practices on ways to incorporate skills based approach to preparing for interviews, as well as having a skills based approach to job progression coaching. So, one big thing I want to introduce to you is to kind of change our mindset about interview prep. Traditionally, we would probably go on Google and punch in the top 25 interview questions and then prepare a script for each one of those questions and memorize those answers. The issue with that is that we may walk into the interview and realize that they may not ask one of those top 20 questions that we looked up. Therefore, we are not prepared, or the participants that we are working with are not prepared. I would like to change your thinking and offer you a different approach, which I think can be empowering for the participant, but also can help you to coach them through effective and successful interviewing. I would like to introduce you to something that's called the feature benefit model, something that is talked about quite a bit in the area of sales. And the basic premise is this: that consumers purchase products or services not because of the features of their brand, but because of the benefit that it brings them personally. So, in other words, when you go into a store and you go grocery shopping, or you purchase clothes or technology or computers, you don't buy it because of the list of things that they have as being part of the brand or their features. You make a purchase because of what that thing can do for you. How does that computer serve you? How do those clothes make you feel? How will those groceries assist you in healthy eating? We always purchase because of benefits, not features. So the question is what in the world does this have to do with helping job seekers find jobs? Because in the same sense, employers will purchase or hire individuals not because of the features of their brand, or better yet, those bullet points on those resumes, but rather they hire the people that will bring them the most benefit, the people who will have the greatest impact on their bottom line. So, in this context, when we talk about features, we're talking about their skills, those competencies, the experiences that those participants have. On the other side, a benefit is why does it matter? And what does it really mean to the employer? Let's go on a little bit deeper to help you understand and really grasp this concept. So, for instance, I am a trainer, and you are listening to a training that we are putting together. One of my skills could be, for instance, video production. That's a skill I can have. I can create training videos. But if I went to an employer and I just said I can create training videos, that's not enough to land me the job. I have to be better at communicating why that skill matters to the employer and what it means to them. So, a better way of selling myself would be something along the lines of my video production skills will allow me to create engaging training videos for your employees. And then I can take it further and say, And those training videos will allow your employees to gain the skills necessary and needed to be effective at their jobs. What I'm doing is I'm selling it as the benefit and not just the feature. Here's something that you really should understand as a human centered coach, that for people to be successful in their job search, there's two things that they need to know. They need to be able to know their value and to be able to communicate their value. It really is just that simple. How well does a job seeker truly understand their value in the market, their value for an employer, and then their ability to communicate that in a way that resonates with that employer or the person interviewing them? So this is why the feature benefit model works, because it shifts the way job seekers think about themselves. Most job seekers are good at listing their skills and competencies and experiences. Look at their resume. There's tons of bullet points. Look at their cover letters. They're talking about all their skills. Most job seekers, however, are not good at communicating that as a value to an employer. They just assume that an employer would be able to see the value in their skills and their competencies. However, if we really want to be effective coaches, we have got to get those participants to really understand the value of what they bring to the table. To understand that yes, those are features, but features don't land you the job. You've got to be able to communicate your feature as a benefit to the prospective, prospective employer. So that's what we're going to talk about. How do we incorporate now this feature benefit model in a tangible best practice that can help prepare our participants to be effective and successful in their interviews? I'd like to introduce you to something we call benefit statements. A benefit statement is a way of taking a skill, a competency, or a feature of your brand and communicating it as a value and as a benefit for the employer in a very succinct manner. What you see on the screen is the basic template of a benefit statement, which is my blank will allow me to do blank for your organization. Or my blank will ensure that blank happens for your organization. So let's let's go through a few of these, a few examples so you can see how this works. So I'll go back to my original example that I gave about my skills in video production. So I would start the benefit statement by saying my experience and skills in video production, that's the first blank, will allow me to do blank for your organization. Now is where you as a coach are going to help those program participants be able to answer the question, why does that skill matter to the employer, and in what way will it impact the bottom line for that employer? So as stated earlier, I'm going to talk about how my ability to produce training videos will allow me to create engaging training opportunities for your organization. Now, that's good as it stands. My experience and skills in video production will allow me to create engaging training opportunities for your organization. Now, here's something secret that I want to give you that makes this even more powerful. And it adds one phrase to this statement: resulting in. So the way that would work is my blank will allow me to do blank for your organization, resulting in. And then that last blank is like the big bottom line impact. So let me show you how that works. My experience and skill in video production will allow me to create engaging training opportunities for your organization, resulting in a highly skilled workforce that maximizes outputs for the organization. What I've done in that benefit statement is I've stated my skill. I stated what I'm going to do with that skill and why it matters. And then I talk about the big picture outcome. To me, that is a perfectly crafted benefit statement. Let's try the second template. My blank will ensure that blank happens for your organization. So let's talk about customer service skills. So let's say my engaging customer service skills will ensure that every customer is provided with a wow experience when interacting with your organization. Now we're going to add that magic phrase, resulting in. So my engaging customer service skills will ensure that every customer has a wow experience when interacting with your organization, resulting in repeat business and increased sales due to word of mouth marketing. Now you can see how I've connected that, and I've talked about the skill, what I plan to do with it, and what's going to be the impact. These are benefit statements. Is being able to take that skill, take that competency, take that certification, take that experience, and communicate it as a value add to the employer. If you can help your participants understand this and fully embrace this, this will revolutionize their whole job search. Once they understand that it's not about listing or telling all their skills, but it's about selling their skills. And selling isn't a bad word. Selling just means I'm connecting what I bring to the table to meet a need that you have. These benefit statements go a long way to help our participants really embrace this, really understand the value that they bring to an employer or to an organization. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later as we kind of connect all of these dots with skills-based interview coaching. The next thing we have is what's called our STAR story. Now, a STAR story, as the name suggests, is one where your program participant tells a story about how they utilized one of those skills or competencies in the past, and it brought them success or had an impact on the organization. And just like the name suggests, they need to be the star of their STAR story. STAR is an acronym that stands for situation, task, action, and result. This is basically a template and a formula to put the story in to make sure that it hits all the important points and it doesn't ramble on unnecessarily. So what you do is you take one of those skills that you have and you come up with a STAR story that demonstrates how you use that skill and how you were successful because of it. So this is how a STAR story could sound. And so we go through each of these points. The situation is kind of the context or the background to the situation. The task is what task were you given in that situation? What did you have to do? Sometimes this could be what was the problem, what was the challenge sometimes. And then you talk about what you did. And then you talk about what was the result of your actions. So let me show you what this can sound like. So let's go back to, once again, talking about those video production skills. So I'll start with, there was a situation on my last job where I was given the task of creating some video training modules that will be used for workforce development professionals and social service providers in the district. So what I did was I was able to go into my office/studio and create an engaging video which featured graphics and voiceover. And as a result of my skills and my ability to produce these videos, we were able to post them on the website and make them available for literally hundreds of professionals to gain access to training and literal life-changing principles that impacted their ability to engage with the residents of DC. What you see is I'll go through all the steps. I give a little bit of a background. I talk about what my task was in that. I give details about what I did. And the most important part of a STAR story is the R, the result. What was the impact of that? That's like the same thing with the benefit statement, which came after that, resulting in. Because at the end of the day, it's all about coaching our participants to be able to sell themselves to impact the bottom line of the employer. How does this skill impact the bottom line of the employer? How have I done this before in the past? Because what that does is it lets the employer know how I plan to do it in the future for them. So take a moment right now, and I just want you just to pause for a second. You can even pause the video as you're watching. And I want you to think about one of your skills that you've had. And I want you to think about a time in your career where you had some success because of that skill. And I want you to think of a very specific story And I want you to put it into this star format. Give me the background. You don't have to go into a lot of detail, just enough to provide context. What was your task in that situation? Or what was the challenge? Or what was the problem? And then give a little bit of details about what you did. And in this action part of it is where you talk about how you utilized your skill set. And then finally, most importantly, what was the impact of what you did? And that impact should speak to the bottom line of that employer. So I want you to take a moment, pause, and I want you to try to craft your star story. The best way for you to practice before you work with residents is to do it for yourself. Because once you learn the mechanics, you'll be able to do this without thinking working with the participants of your program. So remember, you have to be the star of your star story. So now let's put this all together. Because, how does this help with interview prep? So let me tell you what you do. One of your participants comes in and says, I have an interview scheduled for next week and I want to get ready for the interview. So before we even get to these bullet points, I'm going to give you some things to do. And I think we probably already know these things. These are tried and true. You do some research on the organization or the company. You go to their website. You gather information about the organization. You might go to LinkedIn, see if you have any network connections that work for the company. Gather some information that way. We talk about, coaching them through what they need to be wearing, their attire, all of that. But now let's talk about how to prepare so that they can feel confident in any interviewing situation. The first thing you do is you sit down with that participant and you say, what are the 6 to 9 skills that you possess that will have the most impact in this role? And one of the best ways to do this is actually pull up the job posting, review it together, highlight the things that they're asking for, have some conversation. This is a good coaching moment. What skill do you think you need to be able to accomplish that requirement? Or what skills do you have that you think will be most important for this job? And you write down those 6 to 9 skills. And then what you do is for each one of those skills, you craft a benefit statement. So customer service, maybe they have expert level of Excel. Maybe they are exceptional communicators. Maybe they're bilingual and bicultural. For each one of those, you craft a benefit statement. And remember, the benefit statement has that template. My blank will allow me to do blank for your organization, which will result in blank. Or my blank will ensure that blank happens for you and your organization. So for each one of those 6 to 9 skills, you work with them to craft a benefit statement and you actually write that down. Each one, you write a benefit statement. And then you take each one of those skills and you come up with a star story for each one of them. So now you have customer service as the skill, you have your benefit statement that goes with it, and you also have a star story that you can use that demonstrates how you've used that skill in the past and how you've gathered or you were able to obtain success utilizing that skill. What you're doing here is you're creating with that participant like this pool of content that communicates their value to the employer. And the great thing about this technique is that if you do this the right way, there really aren't many questions that can be asked in an interview that you will not be able to pull from this pool of content. So let me just give you an example. So let's say you do this work, and a pretty common interview question is, what's your greatest strength? So what you'll do is, or you say, what are your strengths? So a good way to respond is, well, for this job, I feel like my customer service skills would be the most important strength that I bring to this role. Then you go to your benefit statement. My customer service expertise will ensure that every customer is treated with the utmost respect, and they're able to experience a wow experience interacting with our organization. And that will result in increased repeat business, as well as we all know that by creating that great experience for that customer, they're going to tell their family and friends about it. There once was this situation. I go right into my star story. On my last job, or I was dealing with this customer and blah, blah, blah. And you go through the star story. So, what you're doing is you're really working and not crafting perfect answers, but you're working on empowering that participant to be able to communicate their value. If you do this well, they'll walk in feeling more confident and they'll be able to use this to answer questions. And as you coach them, have a mock interview and teach them how to use this information that they have put together to answer those questions. So remember those steps. You identify the 6 to 9 core skills, 6 to 9, that will have the most impact. Then you create a benefit statement for each one, and then you craft a star story for each one as well. So I know that was really quick, but I hope that you can incorporate that into your normal kind of interview prep. This is kind of having that skills based approach because we may not have all the degrees and all the certifications, but if I'm called in for an interview, I can be confident that someone sees in my resume that I have the ability to do the job. Now it's their job to sell themselves and to really communicate their value to the employer. So here's my question for you in this. How do you think these techniques will help job seekers reframe non skills based questions to highlight their skills and ability? Can you see this working with your participants, really empowering them to be confident, to be able to really communicate their value to the employer? Take a few moments just to think about that. Because this is what this whole training is about, is giving you some tangible strategies that you can use to help transition your participant to have more of a skills-based approach to interviewing. All right, next we're going to talk about having a skills-based approach to job progression coaching. So, what this really means is, as we are providing services in the district, individuals come to us and they really come in different phases of their career journey. It's probably safe to say that in most of our programs, however, they usually are coming in this bottom tier, low wage, less secure roles. And I would like to say, and I would suggest that it's in our job, really in our programs, to not keep them in this same tier, but to provide value to them either through training, through coaching, that they will now be able to transition to a medium wage or a more secure role. We may get people who are medium when they come in and we want to get them to a higher wage. The idea being that when we're working with participants, we should be coaching them to the next tier on their career journey. That we should be coaching them so that they can have a skills based approach to job progression. Why? Because as identified earlier, many of our residents may not have those traditional college degrees or certifications, and we have to coach them on being able to utilize their skills and experiences in a tangible way to be able to still have some job progression. So let's dig into this kind of career pathway a little bit more. So we can move from origin occupation. So these are some of those first jobs, fresh out of high school, sometimes fresh out of college, sometimes fresh from, maybe we might be working with a young lady who, was a full-time mom and getting back into the market, and they have an origin occupation. This is kind of the starting blocks. They get those jobs. They're usually low wage and they're not really that secure. A lot of them are not salaried, they're hourly. They may not offer a lot of the same benefits. And then the next thing we have is what we call gateway occupations. So what this does is we pivot from the origin occupations. Now we're in a place where the job is a little bit more secure. It's a higher wage, higher skills requirement. But now being successful here in this gateway occupation begins to open the door for me to be able to transition to that target occupation. Now, the thing is that when we're coaching is being able to identify exactly where that resident is, that participant is when they come through the door, and creating a plan that would allow them to be able to jump at least one level. Remember, we want to be able to coach them through job progression and career planning. So let's talk about each one of these steps with a little bit more clarity. So, origin occupations are those that are done just to bring in income, as they usually pay minimum wage and require minimal skill. So, a lot of times, our participants will come in, they just need a job. I got to work, I have bills to pay, I need to feed my children, I need to pay rent, all those things. And sometimes we just got to get them working. But I want to challenge you that even though that might be what's needed right now, let's not lose sight of the goal of job progression. I love to train and to coach job seekers on the mindset, knowing that, all right, you can take that job, but that doesn't mean you have to stop looking. Don't lose sight of the goal. And one of the first things you should do with any program participant is to map it out where they are now and where they want to be and what are those target occupations. Because then, if we can identify what the target occupations are, we're able to then do some coaching around their journey from where they are to where they want to go around those gateway occupations. So, gateway occupations are accessible from select occupations. They offer middle to high wages, help master skills, and provide opportunity for advancement. This is such a critical phase in their career journey. This is when you find individuals kind of discover their passion about what their career pathways are. Up to this point, they maybe have just been working from job to job just to try to get by. But when you start getting into your gateway occupations, you begin to identify a potential career path or potential a path to pursue through higher education. A lot of our programs are built around navigating this space right here, getting our participants to this space, and then giving them a path out to the target occupations. Target occupations are accessible from select gateway occupations. They offer middle to high wages, are sustainable, and achieved through skill development and job experience. So now when you talk about target occupations, this is where these are those goals. These are the end of the road where our participants want to see themselves land, where they can really start putting in some career time. And these are the occupations they want to retire from. This is really what they want to invest to get to, where they're making not just a livable wage, but they're making a wage where there's expendable income. They're able to pay their bills and have money left over. This is the type of jobs that will allow them to transition from renting to becoming a homeowner. This is going to allow them to put their own children through college. We may not see them get to these goals, to these types of occupations, but we, through our programs, ought to put them on that trajectory. And that's what we're going to deal with now and provide you with some tools to help you coach your participants through this journey. So there's kind of like two types of job progression. You have this linear, which is nice and clean and everything's in order, and then you have non-linear, where it's like you start in one field, you go to another, and I would feel comfortable in saying many of our participants are probably more on the nonlinear progression. A lot of the participants that we're serving every day have started in one field and moved to another, started with one job. They went to community college for this and they tried something else. And when they come to us, quite often they have these resumes that feel disjointed. There is no kind of apparent connection, but we still have to coach them to be able to have some job progression. So those linear progressions really follow traditional advancement throughout one's career using ongoing formal education and relative work experience in a single or similar field. So a good example of this, somebody who starts off as a CNA, then they get their LPN and they become an RN. It's kind of connected. It makes sense. They go to school, they get new skills, new certifications, and they kind of just move up. And this is like a perfect world. And we have some of these individuals in our caseloads. And this is sometimes a little bit easier to kind of coach through because it's pretty clear. But however, we do have nonlinear progression. So nonlinear progressions utilize non-direct routes and incorporate short-term training when necessary to advance in the current field. In nonlinear progressions, workers may move laterally into another seemingly unrelated field in order to open up new opportunities for career advancement and skills gains. So what you see is they jump from kind of industry to industry, field to field. An example is somebody who may start off as a CNA, but then get a job as an administrative assistant, maybe because that was what was hiring at the time, and they gain some skills there. And then maybe there's an opportunity at that same company to become a human resources specialist, and they gain some more skills. And then from there, maybe they're able to transition to another company or maybe another industry with as a business analyst because they've gained skills along the way. It's not linear. It doesn't move in that normal trajectory. However, there is a trail of skill development through it all. And we have to be able to help our participants navigate this space the same way we can help those who go through a linear progression. So there's a great tool that I want to introduce you all to. The website is right there on the screen, and I really want you to write that down because this is a great tool that you can actually utilize to help coach your residents or your participants through their job progression, especially having a more skills based approach. I highly recommend that you bookmark this and you save it to your desktop so you can access it quickly. But this is an incredible tool for you to sit down with your participant to aid in that coaching conversation. So I'm going to show you the tool, show you the page, and walk you through it a little bit so that you'll be able to utilize it with your participants. So this is the landing page. This is the job progression tool, and I want to highlight a few things. If you look in the top right hand corner, I want to highlight that you can choose between Spanish and English, number one. Number two, that you can also go through some tutorials to learn the platform, which I highly recommend. And they also have a frequently asked questions section, just in case you just get a little stuck. Now let's move to the left, the kind of the left hand side underneath where it says job progression tool. You have a couple of fields for you to fill in that's going to help you utilize the tool. So the first two are occupation category and recent occupation. So this is where you sit down with your participant and you ask them kind of what was the last job that they've had, or where have they had the most significant experience in. So what occupation category first, and then what specific occupation. For this example, I chose customer service and sales. And for the actual specific job, retail salesperson. So this is somebody maybe who's worked at Walmart, Target, or Giant, or worked in maybe at the mall. And they've had a few of those jobs. And the question is, where can I go to from here? And what's a progression that makes sense based on where I've been? You also put in the location. So we've put in here District of Columbia. And then you have occupation fit. And what this does is a drop down that allows you to select different criteria that you want to filter out results for. Some of these things include flexible work hours, working with individuals who may have a criminal background. That's a good way to filter out to make sure that you are looking at viable options. So once you do that, you get what you see on the screen, and it's kind of hard. So let's go to the next one so we can see a little bit better. So what you see is you start here with retail salespersons, and then what it does is identifies what they call next occupations. And what you see there is you're going to see the range in pay on a national scale against what the local scale is based on what you put in. And then from there, you're going to see a list here of all the different types of kind of next occupations for somebody who comes in with retail experience. So we see they can go to become a manager, first line supervisor, computer user support. They can become a sales rep for manufacturing, real estate, insurance sales. So you can see a lot of different opportunities here. And then what you would do is you would sit down with the participant and maybe you go through all of these. The ones that have the special icon to the right of them means that these are jobs that require special certification. So you can see it next to the real estate agents and insurance sales agents. So maybe you go through all of them and you click on them and you see kind of what's next. So let's go on to the next page so we can see if we were to click on sales representative. So let's say they want to go from not just doing like retail sales, but maybe doing business to business sales, so different type of sales. Then you click on it, then you get some more information. This is going to tell you what the medium and long-term demand is. It's going to tell you the median pay. It's going to tell you some occupational fit information. It's going to tell you some skills that you may already have based on your background that are required for this job. And it's going to tell you some target occupations that you can go from there. So once again, we're talking about that progression. And what I love is then it has an opportunity for you to optimize or build a new resume based on this job progression. So this is a wonderful tool that you really need to add to your toolkit. And make sure, once again, if you go onto that site, that you click on the tutorial and you go through those tutorials so you can really learn how to utilize this tool. I just wanted to provide you with an overview so you can see just how powerful this is and how this can really help you in coaching your participants through their skills-based job progression. So let's talk about this. How do you think you can incorporate what we just learned in this short module into your career progression planning session that you have with your participants? What are some other sources that you can utilize to help in these conversations? So this is something that you can have a conversation with your team on your individual jobs, maybe with your supervisor or your manager. But these are critical for you to really work through. How can you utilize this when you're working with your participants day to day? How can you really empower your participants to have a skills-based approach to not only interviewing but also to their job progression planning? Well, that ends this module on a skills-based approach to interview coaching and prepping, as well as a skills-based approach to job progression coaching. I hope something that you heard today will inspire you to try some different techniques, some different best practices when working with your participants. Once again, this is just a high level overview. This is something just to get you interested and to give you some techniques that you can use tomorrow when working with your participants. We thank you for your time and attention during this module. Have a great day.